much earlier on today, in fact, when Bournemouth were playing their match, I said that reports were coming out that Nigel Pearson had been sacked. Now, literally within the last 15, 20 minutes, Watford have finally confirmed it. Now, this is a good 6 hours later. They really took their time. They've issued a statement. It's out on their social media. I'm looking at it as we speak. Does this surprise you, Renee? You're a manager yourself. I mean, they've made multiple changes this season alone. And I know that the owners have been a little bit trigger-happy in the past. But with 2 games remaining, was it the smart decision?
Well, that's a completely different thing. Does it surprise me? No, not at all. Because obviously those owners, they get carried away with the emotions of the fear of getting relegated and all the consequences that come with it. They've done it many times before. Is it a smart move? Just 2 days of two games remaining has to be seen. They obviously hope for a shock effect. I think they're bringing 2 people from within the club into the first team setup, which I find a bit strange, because if you want to create something like that, you need to bring somebody in that can come in and really almost sort of shock therapy and get everybody up and going and win the next game. That's the most important thing. Just win the next game, so you have a fighting chance in the last game. Now, if the players do not agree with this decision, and obviously at the end of the day, players need to be professional and they need to turn up in the next game for this and the other. But as Mark all know and we know, players, they want to play for a manager or they don't. And I thought that with Nigel Pearson, that at least he's that sort of manager that gets the players going and they want to play for him. So I'm not too sure whether all the players would be happy with this decision, but we'll have to wait and see. I
mean, we're looking at the results, Mark. Watford had beaten Norwich, obviously right down there. They had beaten Newcastle, and they had just lost about 48 hours ago against West Ham, 3-1, and then the news breaks. And they've got Manchester City at home and then Arsenal away on the final day of the season. And now, there's also another report that says, allegedly, the manager, Nigel Pearson, the former manager, got into a furious row with the owner. And that led to his sacking. I mean, it still strikes me as odd.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Because I know Nigel Pearson, and we know that history, when he was at Leicester, I know at Derby County, there was, I think, by all accounts, the reports were that he had a confrontation with the owner at Derby. I've just seen the last couple of weeks, I've seen his demeanour change. He's been quite confrontational when he was being interviewed post-matches. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if there was a confrontation afterwards. And the minute you take on an owner of a club, there's only one winner. And I think that, to me, seems like that's what's happened. We know that a lot of the players at Watford came out in support of Nigel Pearson within the first week or 2 of him taking over as manager, saying this is exactly what we needed. He's been brilliant. He's set them home, proper home truths amongst why we are where we are, and it's up to us to get ourselves out of it. And then now, I agree with René. I'm sure there'll be a lot of players there disappointed and upset that he's left. But I think the minute you take on, if it's correct, and I wouldn't be surprised if it is, I've had the personal experiences with Nigel. I know Nigel when I was a player with Middlesbrough. I know what it was like. I had him at Leicester City. He can be confrontational, and I think he possibly didn't stand down when he probably should have.
And he didn't like the confrontational side of him.
No, absolutely not. No, because I think there are times when, particularly when you look for it, it's different if a player is asking for it. It's different if a player needs to be put in their place, because that does actually happen. You need that. Sometimes, René will tell you, a lot of times players will get ahead of themselves. Players will push the boundaries, and a manager needs to be firm, needs to put them in their place. Absolutely. In my instance, it was a case of he was just looking for a confrontation, and I'm not that type of person, and I can see it being the same issue that happened at Watford.
Looking for it. That's an interesting way of putting it as well. Do you think he thrives on it?
No.
I think it's part of his DNA. I think it's part of him. Yeah, it gets him going, gets him worked up, wants to show that he's the boss, the authority side of things. And show people their rank in amongst that group.
Wow. All right. Sorry, René, you were about to say something?
No, I'm saying sometimes the managers do that, and managers have different ways of doing it. Sometimes they want to create a reaction. they want to get something to get something out of that group or an individual player, to get them where he wants them to be. But like I said, do not forget, Watford was the first team to beat Liverpool, and I've seen them play, and I've seen them play with the right intensity, in the right way. And again, obviously, all those games at the end, when you're fighting relegation or you're down there, they all matter. I thought they were poor in certain instances, giving those early goals away against West Ham that held West Ham. But to be fairly honest, the second half, they gave it a good go, but it wasn't good enough, But then again, it's all emotion. It's all emotion and fear that owners can see, fighting relegation and the consequences of it. And they do desperate measures, but probably the confrontation with, as Mark says, if you have that confrontation with the owner, there's only one outcome.
Yeah, well, we don't have much time, gents, just a few minutes, but I do want to take a look at the relegation battle because obviously Bournemouth dropped points again earlier today. So they've only got one game left to save their season. That's against Everton. Now, if they are going to stay up, they need all the others to lose, and they need a heavy goal difference swing in their favour. And they are away at a Carlo Ancelotti's side. We can see Watford, I've already mentioned. Villa, West Ham. I mean, who's going to go down? I mean, obviously Norwich are down. That's already confirmed. Bournemouth seem to be all but down. What do you say, Mark? Who's going to be relegated?
Well, yeah, I mean, like as of last week, I would have said the same three. Obviously, Norwich are gone already. Bournemouth and Villa are going to join them now with Watford's game against Manchester City. That goal advantage, the goal difference advantage, could swing very, very quickly against Watford. It all depends now how they react after the sacking of Nigel Pearson.
All right. Your thoughts, Renee? Who's going to go down? Who's going to be playing Championship football next year?
I think Bournemouth are in real trouble. Villa, and the size of the club, is a club for me that should be in the Premier League, and it's a must game their next game as well. But Watford, again, they play City, and maybe they play City exactly at the right time. They got knocked out of the FA Cup. How do they cope with that disappointment? They're obviously fine with the Champions League, and they're looking forward probably and focusing on the Champions League now. You don't know, because City hasn't fired from all cylinders as well. So maybe this shock, maybe you don't know. Watford could come up with a shock result, and if they could probably play themselves safe.